People get so focused on the latest, greatest, shiny, coolest thing that they lose sight of the whole idea of cybersecurity is it's about securing the organization. It's not about saying something's cool and trying to fit it in. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. You know what time it is. It's time for Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house. I just want to take a moment to thank you for listening and spending some time with me. I really enjoy recording these podcasts, and I hope you enjoy listening to them as much as I enjoy putting them together for you. So just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, any feedback, anything you'd like us to do a podcast on, any topics or any information, please, please, please let us know. So just giving you a little heads up, what we're going to talk about is I get a lot of people going, Eric, you don't seem to talk about the latest, greatest trends in cybersecurity. And I'm like, what do you mean? Of course I do. And like, no, you haven't done any podcasts on AI or machine learning or big data or all these buzzwords that are around there. And I'm like, I know. They're like, why not? I'm like, because they're buzzwords. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong here. They do offer some solutions, but here's the problem. People get so focused on the latest, greatest, shiny, coolest thing that they lose sight of the whole idea of cybersecurity is it's about securing the organization. It's not about saying something's cool and trying to fit it in. I find with a lot of organizations, you got these folks that they get so caught up on AI or buzzwords or this or that they lose sight of the big picture. And when I go in and I ask them, well, what is the problem you're trying to solve? What is the risk you're trying to reach? They're like, but Eric, do you know how cool behavioral analytics with advanced artificial intelligence and machine learning with neural networks with back propagation, like throw every word in there. And I'm like, but what is the risk you're trying to solve here? So to me, it doesn't matter what the buzzwords are. It doesn't matter what the latest and greatest. That's cool. By the way, I'm a big fan. I promote and I push advancements in cybersecurity. I believe we need to do a better job of continuing to advance and come up with better solutions. So I'm not negating them, but I'm saying from a CISO standpoint, from the position of a Chief Information Security Officer, we should be focusing first and foremost on what is the risk that's unacceptable. Remember, everything we do is driven by a simple formula. What is the value and benefit? What is the risk and exposure? And is the value and benefit worth the risk and exposure? If it is, great. If it's not, that's where we step in. So now we have a situation where there's something we need to do from a business standpoint, but the risk or exposure is too great. So then we have to go in and say, what are our options for reducing that risk to an acceptable level? And then we go and look at what solutions are out there. Then, to me, whether it's using AI or not, the question is, we look at some vendors, we go in, we try them out, we trial them, we test and verify that they actually work the way they do, and then we ultimately pick the best solution based on the price and the budget that we have available to us. If it happens to be AI, great. If it happens to be non-AI, that's great too, but we should be basing it on which solution, based on the price tag, does the best job of reducing the overall risk. And I feel like we've lost that. I feel like we've lost that objectivity as CISOs, where now very often It's more about what is the latest and greatest and coolest technology. Let's find it, and then let's force it into our organization. Let's go in and say, we have to have behavioral analytics or AI or this or that. And the reality is, do you? Once again, what is the risk? What are you trying to reduce, right? We got to get back to the fundamentals. So that's really what this one is about, is really understanding and calculating risk to the organization so we can make sure that we're properly applying the right solution. Because here's the reality. While we have good intentions, when we let technology drive, when we basically let the tail wag the dog, where we find a cool solution and then we force it into our organization, we end up creating more problems, more challenges, and more issues. And here's why. Let's just get down to the fundamentals. Let's just get down to brass tacks basics. Why is it that most organizations get compromised? Well, let's just go there and let's answer that question. The reality is, most organizations are getting compromised today for one simple fact. They don't have enough people to respond and react to the alerts that are happening and occurring. In almost every major breach, every minor breach that I've worked on, when we go back and we know what to look for, so the organization has been compromised and we know exactly what to look for. In almost every case, when we go back and we look at all the alerts that are generated by all the different technology, almost always, there was an alert for that attack. So the technology they have is actually catching the attacks. So this idea that we need more technology, or there's a gap in the technology, or there's a gap in our solutions, is often flawed. It's not actually correct. The technology they had did detect the attack. The problem is it was lost in the noise. There were so many alerts and so many things and so much happening that it was impossible for their team to be able to address, handle, or manage it. So the fundamental reality today in most organizations is their current technology is not deficient. It's the alerting and prioritization that is deficient, because they're in a situation where their technology is generating, and I'll just make up numbers, but fairly close to what we see. They're generating 5,000 alerts a day. So you have this solution in place, 5,000 alerts. The problem is the current team can only respond and address and handle 100. So now if they're only able to handle 100, and there's 5,000 a day, that means 4,900 alerts are being ignored. And start compounding that. Right? Over 50,000 a week. Over 200,000 a month. Right? Over 2 million a year. Which means the probability of you missing a significant attack is almost guaranteed. It's almost guaranteed. So now, if we step back into the reality which is our technology is catching the attack, but we don't have enough people to handle it, then is the solution really to buy more tech to generate more alerts? No, it's crazy. But that's what companies are doing. And I see this time and time again, and I'm like, what are you doing? So we have a breach. The current tech caught it, but there's too many alerts. Current team is way too small to handle it. So you have this situation where you're generating this many alerts. Your team can only handle that. So what is the solution? Let's buy more tech to generate more alerts to make the problem worse. Now, they don't know that. They're not deliberately doing that. But this is the problem today is we're chasing technology and we're not stepping back and doing root cause analysis. Once again, root cause analysis in most cases is companies are detecting attacks, but they're not tuned, they're not prioritized, and their teams are not big enough. That's the fundamental problem. So let's deal with that. Let's go in and say, okay, we have a couple of options. One is we could go in and buy new tech that better prioritizes. So I'm not poo-pooing new tech. I know sometimes when vendors listen to this, they're like, man, Eric's criticizing. No, I'm not. Solutions are awesome. I encourage innovation. I invest in innovation. I advise on innovation. I think we need to continue to innovate and continue to come up with new and better ways to improve cybersecurity, because the reality is quite simple. If you look at the game of cybersecurity, it's never going to be won, because the better we get, the better the adversary gets. So it's not one of these cases where the level and knowledge and expertise of the attacker or the threat stays the same. Which means if we elevate our expertise above them, we can dominate and we can win and game over, and we won. The problem is, as soon as we get better at detecting them, they get better at hiding from us. And it's this constant game where every time we figure out a way to defend, prevent, detect, or stop the adversary, they're going to figure out a way around it. And here's the reality. Because 100% security with functionality doesn't exist. Because whenever you add functionality, you decrease security. Whenever you add functionality, you increase risk. Because our systems are functional and have functionality, there will always be vulnerabilities, there will always be risks, which means the attacker always has the upper hand. They will always be able to find a way in. So we need to recognize that this game is constant. We have to continually elevate and get better and better and better, because the attackers will continue to get better and better and better, and there will always go in and be vulnerabilities. And here's the problem. Because we're getting so reliant on technology, because we're adding so much functionality, I sort of consider myself blessed to be alive during this time period, because when I grew up, there weren't computers or cell phones. So I got to witness going through school without computers, cell phones, or technology. And then, because I'm always learning and getting degrees, going through school with cell phones and technology. It's interesting to see that drastic shift. But the reality is, if the more functionality we have, the more vulnerabilities. There's going to be a lot of vulnerabilities, my friends, because guess what? Functionality is going like this. We are putting more and more and more functionality into computers. We are putting more and more functionality online, technology. Everything is being driven by tech. You can do anything online. I mean, to me, I love some of these stats, but it's crazy. It's crazy. Do you realize the largest, from a revenue standpoint, the largest transportation company right now on the planet doesn't own a single car? Uber. All they're doing is connecting together, right? All they're doing is doing enhanced functionality on that system. And same thing, you go in and look at one of the highest revenues for food. They don't own a single restaurant. DoorDash, right? So it's crazy, but the point is technology and functionality are going exponential, which means if we follow the rules, the more functionality, the more this problem is going to get continuously worse, which means we need better and better and better solutions. So vendors out there, I love you, I care about you, we definitely need you, I'm on your side. The point is, and I'll speak to the vendors for a second, and I tell this, I keynote at a lot of vendors, their main yearly events where they have 5,000 people, their whole sales folks come in. I'm like, it's real simple. Stop selling all the coolness. Stop selling all your functionality. If you want to crush your numbers for the year, it's real simple. Understand the biggest risks to your customer and show how you lower or address that risk. Boom. Don't go in and tell them how cool your interface is or how advanced your AI analytics are. Go in and say, this is your biggest risk, and let me show you why we're the best way to reduce it. That's how you sell in cybersecurity. So we need solutions, but we need solutions that automate, that help minimize the amount of manual labor, and that properly prioritize what's needed and what's required. So I went off on a tangent. Let's go back before I went off on the tangent of the tech and the problem space. So the reality is this. Companies are getting compromised because they're not properly prioritizing their alerts. Companies are getting compromised because they're relying too much on manual methods. Companies are being compromised because automation is outpacing manual. Your technology is generating 5,000 alerts. Your team can only handle 100. That is problematic. That is problematic. So we need to do a couple things, really 3 solutions. One, we need new tech that does more automation, better prioritizes, and produces less alerts for our analysts. To me, I always sit on panels with innovators, and I do a lot of advising for VCs, and they always go, Eric, what should we be investing in? And that's what I tell them. Any technology that increases alerts, increases people, or increases manual efforts, do not invest in. It's going to be a lost cause. But any technology that automates alerts, does more analysis to minimize the need for manual people, and generates less alerts but higher priority alerts, how much money do you want? I'll invest in that company every day because that's the future. Those are the companies that are going to dominate and win the space. So that's what you need to be looking for in solutions. So that's one option. The other option is we need to reduce the number of alerts. If our team can only handle 100, then we shouldn't be generating more than 100 alerts. So we need to go in and tune down the alerts so we're only generating 100. But Eric, we're then missing 4,900. Yeah, but here's the reality. Today you're missing all because you're randomly picking 100 out of 5,000. So the probability that you're catching the ones that really matter, evident by the number of breaches, shows we're not doing a good job there. So here's the question. Do you want to catch nothing, or do you want to catch 100 of the top priority? I'll take the latter. I'll take the latter there. So that's the other option. Or the third option is you need more people. You need more folks. The reality is this. That ladder's not going to happen. Yeah, we've always needed more people, right? It's the whole OpEx versus CapEx, operational versus capital expenses. Easy to get money, hard to get headcount. So the reality is you might be able to get one more person or two, but you're not going to get 30. You're not going to get what you need. So you want to go in and focus on the middle one. First and foremost, right now, today, let's get the problem under control. And the way we get the problem under control is let's generate only enough alerts that we can handle. If our team can only handle 100, we generate 100. If a team can handle 50, we generate 50. At this point, we are now entering what I call the CISO maturity zone. And why I call this the CISO maturity zone is because this is how a world-class CISO operates. They accept the reality and they present the data to the executives so they're fully aware. Let me explain. Most CISOs want to pretend they're superheroes. They want to pretend, we got this. So they'll go in and they'll tell the executives, we're good. We got this, we're solid. Yet meanwhile, they're generating 5,000 alerts, they're only handling 100, they're missing all priority, and they don't got it. Why are we not telling the truth? World-class CISOs let data drive decisions and they're open and honest. Here's how I do it. When I go into an organization, and very often I'm brought in as the cleanup. After they have a CISO that really didn't know what a CISO is, maybe glorified security engineer, and they basically didn't present accurate data. They told the execs, we got it, we got it, we got it, when they didn't. And then the you-know-what hits the fan. They pay $8 million in ransom. They fire the CISO, and there's a mess. So first thing I'm going to come in is when I clean up the mess, I'm going to be like, okay, here's the reality. Here is the simple reality. Your current technology is generating 5,000 alerts. And you're catching all the attacks. Guess what? Your tech caught this ransomware attack 3 months ago. Problem is, your team can only handle 100. So they're missing and they're not catching it. This is crazy. This is suicide. This is not how you run a business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and we're going to prioritize and we're going to pick the top 100. We're only going to generate 100 alerts a day, and your team is going to only respond to those 100. These are the top highest priority, which means some of these attacks could be damaging, but could be medium and not fit the 100. So I'm just telling you right now, there will probably be another ransomware attack. Because if we're only handling 100 out of 5,000, those aren't good odds. But it's better than what you have now where you're doing nothing, where you're missing everything. So I just want you to realize right now, we are only going to focus in on the top X%, which means we're missing some attacks and not catching some attacks. A couple options. You can increase resources. We can decrease functionality. We can limit complexity of our network, or we could potentially see if there's other solutions that are more automated to help address this problem. And then this is mature world-class CISO. You then look at the board and say, what would you like me to do? The problem with most CISOs, they try to make all the decisions and hide the data from the executive team. They just want to go in and, oh, we're great, we're great, we're great. No, we're not. I go in, and one of the reasons why boards loves me and hates me is I tell the truth. I'm like, here's the reality. I can fix a lot of things, and it might look like I'm performing miracles, but I really can't. So I'm just going to present the accurate data to you. I'm going to go in and stop the bleeding as much as I can. We're retuning all your tech to only generate 100 high priority. Because right now what you're doing is insanity. It makes no freaking sense. So we're going to generate 100, and your team's going to handle those top 100. Are we going to miss some? Absolutely. Are we going to be compromised again? Absolutely. But I just want you to realize that's the state. And we can go in, like I said, we can reduce functionality, we can slow down development, we can limit complexity of our systems so there's less vulnerabilities, or we can go in and start to redesign, rebuild, but I'm going to need more resources. What would you like me to do? I'm giving them the factual data. They might not like the factual data, but I will tell you, they appreciate it. They do appreciate the accurate data. So that's how world-class CISOs operate. They go in and they use the simple risk formula. Risk is the probability of loss, threat times vulnerabilities. We go in and we explain what the threats are, what the vulnerabilities are, what the risk. And then, and you probably heard it before, but I haven't covered it in a while, so as we wrap up this podcast, it's important. The way you brief executives, the way you brief and tell this to executives is quite simple. You don't have 50 charts. You don't have tons of complexity. You have one chart. And on that one chart, you have 4 columns. And those columns are simple. This is what could happen. This is the likelihood of it happening. This is the cost if it occurs. And this is the cost to fix it. And just so you know, I'm presenting the top 10. There's hundreds of these in the organization. This is not complete. But I believe these are the highest priority risks to the organization. I want you to currently be aware that right now we are accepting those risks because we don't have additional budget or resources in order to be able to address it. So I want you to realize right now that yes, there is a risk that we can get hit with a ransomware attack. It's 90% chance. If it occurs, will cost us $1 million, and you could spend $200K to reduce it. That's your decision. I'm fine if you want to accept it, but if you want to accept it, and in 5 months we get hit with ransomware, can't blame me now. I guess you can, right? Because at the end of the day, you can do anything you want. You're the executives. But the point is, I'm making you aware. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not covering up anything. I'm not going in and telling you life is great when it's not. I'm giving you the real accurate data. Now, I will do my best to minimize that ransomware attack. And we have a lot of detection that will try to catch it as soon as possible. But I'm just giving you the real accurate data. That's mature CISO 101. For some reason, it just boggles my mind that we've created this perception that CISOs are not supposed to give accurate data. They're not supposed to communicate. They're not supposed to tell the board that things are not okay. Right? Yes, tell the truth. Right? Be honest on what the real problem is, what the risk is, and then give them different options for the solutions. But if we do a better job of communicating, and we do a better job of telling them the reality, then we all get on the same page and we can all work together to fix this issue. So yes, AI, behavior analytics, and all that stuff is awesome and great and wonderful. But the reason I don't have entire podcasts on it is because it has to be driven by the risk. It has to be driven by the problem. Could AI help? Yes. But am I going to sit there and say, you must do AI regardless of what your risks are? Absolutely not. Start gathering the data, understand the reality, present it to the board, and then figure out what is the best solution to that problem.